IPs in VPC. In this video, we are going to see public IP, private IP, and finally elastic IP. Public IP. The public IP is unique around the world, which means the public IP cannot be repeated anywhere. So that's only it can able to route over the internet. And the public IP address are assigned from the AWS pool. And so that if we start the instance in that subnet means the public IP will get changed. So the public IP is a dynamic IP, and the instance which are launched in the public subnets will get the public IPs unless the auto assign public IP is disabled. And the next one is private IP. The private IP is not unique around the world and it can be repeated across the different lands. The private IPs works only inside the VPC and it mainly used for the internal communication between the AWS services or the instance that are present within the VPC. And the instance which are launched inside the private subnet uses the private IP. And here the private IP remains same until the instance is stopped, and the private IP address ranges from 10 to 192, and which are the class A, class B, and class C. So why we need a private IP means to make the internal communication more secure, and if we don't want to expose the servers to the internet and we don't want to public to access the servers means, then we can use the private IP. And the next one is network address translation. Why network address translations are used means, as I said that the private IPs can be repeated and it is not unique. Then how the internet will identify which resources makes the request by using the private IP? Because it uses the concept network address translation. So the network address translations make a conversion from the private IP address to the public IP address, so that the device inside the private network can also access the internet. So by using that private IP, it cannot able to access the internet directly because the private IP are not globally routable. So the NAT convert the private IP to the public IP for the outgoing traffic, and it also convert the public IP to the private IP for the incoming traffic. Let us consider the example. I launched the EC2 instance in the private subnet, and that EC2 instance contained the private IP 10.0.05, and I want to make the instance to connect to the internet. Then I use the NAT gateway. The NAT gateway convert that 10.0.05 private IP to the public IP, which is 54.201.10.25. So it is a public IP which is unique around the world and it cannot be repeated. So the internet will able to identify which device makes the request here. So it responds to that request, and the NAT gateway will receive the request response, and again it converts the 54.201.10.25 public IP to the same private IP 10.0.05. This is how the private IPs in the private subnets are used. So why the NAT is used means, the private EC2 instance wants to access the internet, then NAT is used. And if I want to keep the database more secure means, then I can use the private subnet, and in the private subnet I can use the private IP to make only the outbound traffic only. From that private subnet I can able to reach the internet, but from the internet no one can able to access the instance launched in the private subnet. And the next one is elastic IP. So the elastic IP is the static public IP and it is provided by the AWS. So unlike a public IP, the elastic IP does not change even if we stop or start or replace the EC2 instance also. So why the elastic IP user means, let us consider an example. If I run one EC2 instance and I allocate the elastic IP for it, if I allocate the elastic IP means the private IP is not available in that particular instance. It contains the public IP and the elastic IP, both IPs are the same. And the EC2 contains the elastic IP. So by using that elastic IP, everyone in the world able to use the application. Suppose, unfortunately, if that instant crashes or any failure happens means, simply I will launch the another instance and I will make the connection between the elastic IP to the launched EC2 instance. So now the user will use the same IP to access the instance. So here the no URL is changed and there is no downtime is available for the customer. So because of this, elastic IPs are used, and the elastic IP is free only when running instance are attached, and the AWS charges if we does not use that elastic IP.